Hello, my name is Josh Rock, and today we're going to talk about how landscapes change over time and the processes that cause them to do so. A landscape is part of the Earth's surface that can be viewed at one time from one place. Why is weathering and erosion important, you may ask? Well, to be precise, every mountain, river, or hill carved into the soil is an effect of weathering and erosion, or natural disasters including landslides, volcanic eruptions, or earthquakes. Without weathering and erosion, it would be much like the moon. The difference between physical and chemical weathering is with chemical weathering you change the properties, whereas physical is limited to physical disintegration of a rock into smaller fragments, each with the same properties as the original. One example of physical, or rather mechanical weathering, is water sometimes gets into the tiny cracks in boulders. If that water freezes, it expands, opening the crack even more and eventually splitting a rock into pieces. Another example of chemical weathering would be the weathering of feldspar, right here, which turns into clay when it reacts with water. It is one of the most common examples of hydrolysis. Ions in the feldspar dissolve in the water, which is then transformed into clay due to elements changing inside the rock's properties. Rivers are a unique feature in the geography of the Earth. They provide many roles, including shaping landscapes, moving materials, and arguably the most important for humans to live long is as a water resource. They shape the landscapes by following the most efficient path possible, or the path with the least resistance from headwaters, or their beginnings, to their outlets in the sea. Rivers change in kinetic energy, water flow rates, velocity, discharge, and more as their journey from start to finish. As the water moves past over rocks, dirt, and other materials, it begins to erode them and pick them up and deposit them further down the stream, which is how sedimentary rocks are formed. As rivers naturally try to balance the amount of water flow and kinetic energy from the headwaters until the sea, the rivers erode banks and change their path due to friction between water, soil, rocks, and other material. As a water resource, rivers generally collect water from precipitation through a drainage basin from groundwaters. Rivers have always promoted easier living conditions. Without rivers, many places inland would be without water due to no geological force bringing in water. Not only do rivers provide water, they can also be used as a source of obtaining food, for transport, or even bathing. Climate change is happening in oceans and on coastlines as we speak, whether we deny it or not. The consensus of many studies is that during the past century, sea level has risen worldwide at an average rate of 1 to 2 millimeters a year, due to rising temperatures. A recent review of the literature suggests that 30% of the sea level rise since 1993 is due to thermal expansion, and 55% is due to continental ice melt, both resulting from warming global temperatures. Coastal regions would be most affected by rising sea levels. One impact climate change is causing is heating of the ocean. Due to Murphy's law, the volume of a given mass is proportional to its temperature. Therefore, 93% of the heat transferred from global warming is transported to the ocean. Which then cause the ocean to warm up 0.09 to 0.13 degrees Celsius per decade over the past 40 years. Glaciers have been affecting landscapes for millenniums, but in my opinion, alpine glaciers specifically affect the landscape more than continental glaciers or ice sheets. Alpine glaciers begin in high elevations in the mountains in bowl-shaped hollows called cirques. As the glacier grows in size and age, the ice slowly thaws and flows out of the cirque and into a valley. Once there, it's met by other cirque glaciers, and they join together to form a single valley glacier. From there, it creates rivers and then erodes the land. I believe this glacier to affect the landscape more because ice sheets have only created two continents, whereas every continent is affected by rivers. There are many types of mass wasting. But I believe Topple's effect is the worst due to rapid movements of large masses down hills or mountainsides. There are many types of topples or landslides, ranging from avalanches to rock falls or slides. I believe this to be the most dangerous because with little lubrication from rain, rocks or other debris will start to slip rapidly, and without warning you may be crushed by rocks or even buried by snow. A desert is an arid region which receives less than 10 inches of rainfall a year, which causes little vegetation and dries out the area, but doesn't necessarily mean it's hot. I find the geological process of creating sand dunes to be the most interesting, because it almost resembles a stream or river. Sand dunes are created by saltation, which is caused by sudden scarce rainfall where the water is not able to soak into the ground in such a short period of time, so it flows across the ground as a sheet flow, turning into gullies and arios. Sometimes it doesn't move the larger particles, and they may be left to create a desert pavement. Also, any large item that can block the wind would create a wind shadow and form a sand dune. There are many agents of change, but I believe wind causes the most change over time because it affects almost every other agent of change. Without wind, rivers and coastal waves would flow differently, and most importantly, it affects glaciers, because wind can lower the temperature and cause glaciers to form or thaw if need be. And glaciers impact rivers, which therefore is impacted by the wind, and that is how landscapes are changed, and the different processes affecting the changes. Thank you for your time listening to this and for teaching me many cool things I've always wondered about this year, Mr. Swilton.